Alright, what's up, everybody? Back with another episode of Everyday Hoops. Hope you guys are having a good day. Yeah, today's episode, we're going to be talking about the Atlanta Hawks firing Nate McMillan and where the Hawks go from here as far as coaching. Jacque Vaughn getting a contract extension from the Nets. Patrick Beverley signing with the Chicago Bulls. And a lot more news going around the NBA. So yeah, very excited for this episode. Let's get right into it. Starting off with the big news coming out yesterday. Woj reporting that the Atlanta Hawks have dismissed Nate McMillan, their head coach. He is gone. Um, it came very surprisingly. Not in a surprise of like that he was gonna get fired, because I even said yesterday in my Power Rankings episode, go watch it. That this probably his last year. He'll be out soon. But I didn't think soon meant like get the date right before second half of the season soon. Like I thought that we're just gonna play it out one more year, off season, we'll let him go, start a new coach search. But then, yeah, very confusing timing. Like why now? Like after all the things that have gone on, all the stuff that's been said, like now is the point where you fire him. 29 and 30, maybe they just wanted to put some fire in this team to go out and be good the second half of the year, so they um get a playoff spot. But like, why not? It was just very confusing. I just don't think it's the right timing, honestly. Like right now, I feel like they should have just played out the rest of the year and then fired him off season, and then next year we start brand new. But firing him right now is kind of it's a kind of a risk. It's kind of a risk. Um, they already aren't that good, so it's not gonna be a risk in like, well, it could be a risk that they fall. But it's just, I don't know. I just don't like the timing of it. That's my thing. I just don't like the timing of this firing. Right before you're gearing up to try to go on a run to secure a playoff spot, and all of a sudden your coach is fired. Um, yeah, but it's been a very weird situation this year in Atlanta. We're gonna go through the timeline a little bit of Nate McMillan. Um, so after 2020 season, he gets fired by the Indiana Pacers as the head coach after leading them to the playoffs again. Um, so he goes to Atlanta 2021, 2021 season, becomes an assistant coach under Lloyd Pierce in Atlanta, who the Hawks look like, I don't know, young, up and coming teen. Trae Young is becoming an all star. John Collins is playing good. They got, you know, going. 2021, 34 games into the 2021 season, Nate McMillan's first year in the Atlanta Hawks organization. Lloyd Pierce gets fired after the team starts the year 14 and 20, and things aren't looking that well. Lloyd Pierce gets fired. Nate McMillan gets promoted to the interim head coach, and then the Hawks go on a run. The Hawks went from 14 to 20. Nate McMillan goes 27 and 11 in his first season in Atlanta. Uh, they finish with a 41 and 31 record, because this is the year when the season was shortened, 72 games right after the bubble. They finished as a fifth seed after not even being able to sniff the playoffs. They finished as the fifth seed. Trae Young has an amazing season, averages 25 and 9. John Collins has his best year of his career, 17 points. Bogdanovich averages 16. Clint Capella's first year in Atlanta, averages 15 and 14. DeAndre Hunter, they got Gallinari, Kevin Huerter, Cam Reddish, Lou Will. Just they're playing very well. They play very well. With Nate McMillan, they go into the first round against the 4 seed New York Knicks, who this year Julius Randle won an MIP, and they kind of blossom out of nowhere. Beat them in 5. Trae Young becomes the villain in that series in Madison Square Garden, and they beat him in 5. Go to the second round against the Philadelphia 76ers and beats them in 7. Beats the Sixers in 7. Infamous series when Ben Simmons played his last games as a Sixer. And then they go all the way to the conference finals and put up a fight, but eventually losing 6 to the Bucks. But this is the farthest run they gone to in a very long time. Well, not a very long time, but in an era. Like the last time they went to the conference finals was the 2015 year, when they won 60 games. They had 4 All Stars, got beat by LeBron and the Cavs. But things are looking up, especially with how young this team is. This team looks looking up. John Collins gets a huge contract extension. Trae Young gets put into higher in rankings, and the Hawks look like they're gonna come out next year, and this team's gonna be dangerous. Coming to 2022, and this team doesn't look dangerous. They don't just start the year off very well. It was a very kind of roller coaster ish season that year was. They won a 6 game losing streak. They started the year 4-9. Then they go on a 7 game winning streak to make their season 11-9. They go back and forth, kind of winning one, losing two, winning two. Go on a 5 game losing streak at one point early January to go to 17-25, and then right after the 5 game losing streak, they go on a 7 game winning streak. And now all of a sudden they're only 1 game under 500 at 24 and 25. Do the same thing again where they win one, lose one, win two, lose two, type of thing. At that point, March 1st, they come into March. They lose their first game of March to the Celtics, and they're 29-32. They win a few, lose a few. Then all of a sudden, March 9th, they lose to the Bucks. They're 31-34. At one point, 31-34, just losing back-to-back games. From that point on, they go 12-5 the rest of the year, including a 5 game winning streak to finish with a 43-39 record. They come in as a 9th seed in the play-in, beat Charlotte by 30 in the first play-in game, and then beat the Cavaliers by 6 in the second play-in game, and they get to the playoffs. Kind of a disappointing year considering the conference finals run the year before, but they go on a good second half run to get to the playoffs, losing 5 to the best team in the East, the Miami Heat. But then they come to the off season and they make a huge trade. They make a trade to get for an all-star, DeJounte Murray, on their roster. And all of a sudden, everyone's starting to go crazy again. Everyone's like, uh-oh. The Hawks, they made the conference finals run. Disappointing. And then they're coming in and they're like, all right, now we're making a big move for DeJounte. Making a big, talk to the organization. Like, hey, we believe in this team. And we're going to go for a big move. And we're going to try to get back to where we were. And so far this season hasn't really worked out that well. Right now, they're 29-30 at the All-Star break, 8th in the Eastern Conference. They've been very streaky and not very good kind of streaky. Trae Young is putting up good numbers, but doesn't have the same effect. DeJounte Murray's been good. DeAndre Hunter's been good. John Collins is become a shell of his former self. Their bench, they've kind of had to go to like an 8-man, sometimes 9-man rotation at times. Things haven't really worked out as well on the court at 29-30 with McMillan. But then there's a lot of other things coming out. Earlier this year there was an accident where Trae Young didn't show up to a game. He wasn't going to play in the game, but he didn't show up and sat on the bench with all of his teammates. In that game, he stayed at home, and it came out that there was a little bit of a heated exchange between Trae and Nate McMillan about that. And yeah, it didn't look good on either side for Trae or Nate McMillan, and everyone was trying to decide whose fault is it. Is it Trae's? Is it Nate McMillan? All this stuff, and just a lot of weird things coming out of the Atlanta Hawks locker room this season. A lot of the John Collins news about if they want to trade him, but they can't find anybody to trade for him. Like DeJounte has been good, but is it the right acquisition? Is Trae Young? People are starting to kind of turn a little bit on Trae Young. Like, how good is he really? With another ball dominant player. And then that came out a little while ago about Nate McMillan kind of contemplating like retirement or something like that, like done with coaching because of this Atlanta Hawks team. And even though that came out as fake, it still came out. So there's got to be something a little bit to it. Stuff like that just doesn't just come out of the blue. Yeah. So this whole season has been very weird for Atlanta. Not a good season for the Hawks. And it ends. Well, it doesn't end. It goes halfway through with Nate McMillan being fired. In Atlanta. Overall, with the Hawks, his coaching record He goes 99 and 80 with a 55% win percentage. Goes 11 and 12 in the playoffs. Makes it to a conference finals. Um, and yeah, so that's it for Nate McMillan in Atlanta for now. He definitely will be picked up soon. Probably not soon, like next week, but soon, like meaning next year, he'll be on a coaching staff because Nate McMillan's a really good coach. You know, so some team will definitely pick him up next year. Maybe like a middle team that maybe needs us trying to get to the playoffs and just needs one more little like push. I'd say maybe I was thinking he goes back to Indiana, but I don't think that's the case. Trying to think of teams that could use a Nate McMillan. Maybe Minnesota is a team. Maybe if they let go of Chris Finch early, Nate McMillan comes to the team, or maybe he goes to that staff. I think that would be a solid team. That's the only team I can really think of right now. Um, but yeah, he'll definitely get picked up. By next year, he'll be on a staff. But now let's talk about the Atlanta Hawks. What do they do from here? Joe Prunty is now the new interim head coach. For now, he coached the Milwaukee Bucks a few years ago after Jason Kidd got fired. He was an intern for that year. I think they made the playoffs that year. Um, but now he's the interim head coach. And already came out that Landry Fields and the Hawks are starting their head coach search immediately. Like they're not waiting for the offseason. They're starting their head coach now so that next year they can get him in early and get ready. And some of the candidates that are at the top of the list, Quinn Snyder is the top candidate. He coached the Utah Jazz for many, many years, and I don't think he's on a coaching staff right now. He's a top candidate. Kenny Atkinson, former coach of the Brooklyn Nets. He coached that Brooklyn Nets team with Russell and Jared Allen and Karis LeVert, Dinwiddie, and that team. Now he's been an assistant for the Clippers and the Warriors. He was supposed to be the Charlotte Hornets head coach, but then he backed out of it to go back to Golden State. And then Charles Lee, the top assistant for the Milwaukee Bucks. He's been in the coaching kind of market. Well, not market, but his name has been coming out for the last few years. He's a top assistant with Bud and the Bucks. So I think he's gonna get a lot of consideration. There's a few other candidates, but these are the top three. And I could definitely see Quinn Snyder getting in there. Quinn Snyder coached a very good offense in Utah. His offense with Mike Conley and Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert were usually one of the best in the league. You know, he's a guy that really relies on 3-point shots, and the Hawks don't really shoot a lot of 3-point shots, make a lot of 3-point shots. And I think the creativity he can bring maybe with Trae Young, ball handling, and just putting a bunch of shooters around Trae with guys like DeAndre Hunter, Sadiq Bey now there, AJ Griffin, Bogdanovich. What can you do with John Collins? I don't really know. The Jazz power forwards usually were more like role player, catch and shoot, 3-and-D kind of guys. Bojan Bogdanovich was a good forward in Utah, but I don't think he never really got to be like a bucket getter in Utah. He was more of a stand in the corner. They made him more of like a catch and shoot wing. So I don't know. Maybe they try to get rid of John Collins for Quinn Snyder. I don't know how John Collins gets used. But then they also have Clint Capella, a big, kind of like in the mold-ish of Rudy. Not the defender Rudy is, obviously. But a guy that can pick and roll, go catch lobs. He actually have hands, so he can go catch lobs, block shots, get a lot of rebounds. And they have a solid bench. Like this Hawks team on paper, you look at it. This is a good team. Not a top tier team that's like championship contender, but definitely a playoff team. So Quinn Snyder I think would be a good coach. Maybe I don't know about Kenny Atkinson. I feel like Kenny Atkinson will be more of like a young team's head coach. You know, a team that kind of needs a little bit more rebuilding. It has a lot of young players that need to learn. That's what Kenny Atkinson was in Brooklyn. He led them. He brought them from the bottom of the barrel to the playoffs. I feel like the Hawks need a coach that already knows what they're doing. And the Hawks are in the role where they're not, they're not trying to develop anymore or anything. Like they're trying to make it into the playoffs and get far into the playoffs. So I think Quinn Snyder will be that type of guy. Will be the good head coach for the Hawks. But yeah, so I think probably might be Quinn Snyder. I could see him in Atlanta. But we'll see what happens. But yeah, just a very weird situation in Atlanta. And now they got the second half of the year coming up. Still got like 30 more games to play. So yeah, we'll see what happens over there. Cause yeah, I don't know what's going on over there either. In other news, other coaching news, Jacque Vaughn got a new contract extended past the 2023-2024 season with the Brooklyn Nets. Woj also reporting this. Um, and this is great for Jacque Vaughn. He's been excellent this year. Ever since the Nets fired Steve Nash a few games into the season, he's really come in and changed this team. On the defensive end, they're definitely a lot more aggressive, a lot better. They went on big runs with Jacque Vaughn as head coach, big winning streaks. Their offense looked great, and this team looked like a championship contender before the whole Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant incidents where they both got traded. But now Jacque Vaughn has his young team, young building team, and I think he's gonna do really well. Like I really like Jacque Vaughn as a coach. I think he brings a lot of intensity. He brings a lot of, he brings a really good mind. You watch him on the sideline, he knows what he's doing. He's never yelling at anybody. I feel like he's more of a players type of coach, where he like comes up to you when you do something wrong. He'll come up to you and be like, "Hey, you should have done this or done this," not go in front of anybody and yell like, "What are you doing?" You know. So yeah, Jacque Vaughn has been great for Brooklyn. He fits Brooklyn, and now he's gonna be able to coach his young team for the next few years. And very excited to see what they do because they're a team that I really gonna like watching the second half of the year. Got a lot of dudes, no stars, but they got a lot of dudes out there that can, get buckets and play really hard, and they can see a couple wins in there. So yeah, uh, give it up for Jacque Vaughn. Yeah, Jacque Vaughn. All right. Anyway, we got some signings going around the NBA last few days. Some buyouts, some signings, some converting two-way deals into regular deals. The biggest one was Patrick Beverley. Happened a few days ago, but I think became official yesterday or this morning. Patrick Beverley is signing with the Chicago Bulls. He's going back home. Beverley was born in Chicago, Illinois. Went to Marshall High School in Chicago. And now he finally gets to play for his hometown team. That's funny. There's a tweet that resurfaced that he put out back in 2012 when he wasn't even in the NBA. He was in Russia playing overseas. That can't like he said, "I really want to play for the Bulls" or something in that. I don't know the exact tweet, but he's basically like going home to Chicago, love to play with the Bulls, something like that. And then 10 years later or 11 years later, it happens. He's going to Chicago. Um there's a lot. He came out and said that he was picking between the Bulls and the Warriors to sign with, and he said he picked the Bulls because the East is weak. Now that KD and Kyrie's gone, Eastern Conference looks a little bit weaker. Is he wrong? A little, kind of. The top of the East is not weak, that's for sure. But as you get like past like 7, maybe you have an argument. But yeah, now he goes to the Chicago Bulls. That's fine. I just want to say I picking between the Bulls and the Warriors. I can't see him as a Warrior. Like I try to picture him in the Warriors like offense, and I can't. I just can't picture him with the Warriors. Like I can't even picture him in the jersey. Like that would be so weird, seeing him with the Warriors. Imagine him and Draymond on the same team. Oh my God, the amount of arguments and refs would refs are calling sick for those games. Refs would be like, "Yeah, I'm not doing the Warrior game, man. I'm sick, man. I don't want to deal with Draymond and Pat Bev." Oh my God, that would be something. But yeah, he's going to Chicago. Um, I I see it from Patrick Beverley's standpoint. Like from Patrick Beverley, he gets to go back home. That's fun and all that. I'm not gonna judge. Not gonna be like, "Oh, why didn't you go here? You could have won a championship." Like he finally gets to play for his hometown team. Which is probably was a dream of his and a goal of his. And there probably wasn't really any other top contending team really offering. I can see the Bucks offering him, but then again, the Bucks also have a lot of guard. They have Javon Carter, they have Wesley Matthews, Pat Connaughton. They have a lot of guards that kind of are in the same mold as Pat Bev, so maybe they didn't want another one. Um, so yeah, I don't mind Patrick Beverley going to Chicago. It's just why would the Bulls want Patrick Beverley? Is the thing. Like they got Ayo Dosunmu, Kobe White, Goran Dragic. All they're just gonna have a bunch of guards on their team. Um, yeah, I don't understand. The Bulls have been wanting another guard to make a playoff push. They wanted Russell Westbrook at first. Then they came out and said they're deciding between Patrick Beverley and John Wall, and then they pick up Patrick Beverley. Um, I guess I mean he shoots threes. He doesn't make a lot of threes. He shoots threes. He's shooting um 34% from three this season, which is better than he was last year. So I guess that's something. I just don't understand Chicago and what they do, and yeah. So will this, push them into the play-in? Maybe, I don't know. I mean, they'll be decent. I feel like the second half of the year, but honestly, it's just gonna depend on the other teams. It's gonna depend on what Atlanta, Washington, and Toronto do the second half of the season. If one of them go on a little losing streak, then Chicago can get in there. But if not, then Chicago is just gonna be bad. You know. They also waived Tony Bradley to get that spot, and Tony Bradley, former North Carolina, um, Tar Heel, Saddleback. I honestly didn't even know he was still on that team. I thought he was a free agent here in the G League. I honestly did not know he was still on the Bulls. But he's a very solid backup center. Like when he gets minutes, sometimes like he does some stuff. In Philly, he was pretty solid a few years ago. He's just a big dude. He's just a big center. And every team needs just a big center on their roster just in case. You never know what's gonna happen. So everybody just needs a big center. What is he? He's 6'10", 6'10" center. He's been around the league. He's a former first round pick by the Lakers back in 2017, and then he played 3 years at the Jazz, a half year in Philly, half year in OKC. Last year he played 55 games in Chicago. This year he's played only 12 games in Chicago. For his career, he averages 4 points and 4 rebounds. Yeah, he's just a big, solid backup center. I definitely think a team's gonna sign him because he's one of those dudes I feel like always just ends up on a team somehow. Like he just always every year he's always ends up on a team, and it's like this dude's still on a team. But yeah, he's a solid backup big, So I think definitely he's gonna get signed somewhere. Maybe just some minutes. I don't know. I can't guarantee you minutes, but probably be on the minutes. Speaking of the Bucks not getting Patrick Beverley, they got someone else. Myers Leonard is back in Milwaukee. Is back in the NBA on Milwaukee on a 10-day contract. Myers Leonard has not played in the NBA since 2021 after he used a anti-Semitic slur on a live stream, and then he was on the Heat at that point. The Heat traded him. The Thunder cut him. After that, and now he's back in the NBA on a 10-day. It was reported earlier the year that the Lakers were trying to bring him in for a workout. That I guess that didn't work out because he wasn't a Laker. Then now he's on the Bucks. Bobby Portis has been hurt, so I guess there's maybe a little bit more insurance for backup big. Backup big, he could shoot a little bit as well. 7 foot, just a big dude. Rebounds, dunks, hits some threes sometimes. Yeah, he's been in Portland for a while. He was drafted by Portland, 11th overall back in 2012 out of Illinois. Played a lot of years in Portland. His shining moment was that playoff series in 2018. I want to say, right? 2018. When the Blazers. No, 2019. 2019, actually. When the Blazers made it all the way to the. No. It was 2018. The first time, 2019. 2019, when the Blazers made it all the way to the conference finals, and they got swept by Golden State. Myers Leonard went off in that series. Myers Leonard was like the best player for Golden State in that series. Myers Leonard averaged 7 points and 3 rebounds, but it was not just 7 points and 3 rebounds that he was doing. He said some shots. Game 3, Myers Leonard. He has 16 points, 4 rebounds, shot 6 for 12, 3 for 7 from 3. The first 2 games. The first game he didn't play. Second game he had like 7 points. Then game 3 he went off. Game 4 was his night. Game 4 was his best game of his career. He dropped 30 and 12. Shots 12 for 16, hit 5 threes in that game, and they lost by 2. And they got swept. That's the year when Portland Dame hit that game winner. That iconic shot against OKC and waved them off and waved them into the rebuild. And they made it all the way to the conference finals, but got beat by Golden State. But then Golden State eventually got beat by Toronto. So Yeah, but Myers Leonard's back in the league. He also went to the finals in 2020, the bubble year with the Miami Heat. He was on that roster as well. But so now he goes back to Milwaukee. He's back in the league. Let's see what he does on this 10-day. If he even plays on the 10-day. Who knows? On the next one, yeah, well, we knew it was going to happen, but it became official yesterday. Will Barton has been bought out from the Washington Wizards. It was reported like right after the trade deadline saying the Wizards were going to work on a buyout with him. And then he finally gets bought out by Washington. This year, he was not having a great year in Washington. 40 games, averaged 7 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists. He was shooting 38% from the field and 38% from three. Uh, yeah, just didn't really fit in with the Wizards after having some very good years in Denver. I mean, Denver, he had years, his best of his career. In his 8 years in Denver, he averaged 14, 5, and 3, and was like their all time 3 point leader at one point. Um, so yeah, I think a playoff team should pick him up because I still feel like Will Barton could contribute to a team. He's still, I mean, he's a 6'6" wing. He could play both the shooting guard and the small forward. Pretty solid 3 point shooter, not a marksman, but very can hit some threes in games. Um, could be a ball handler a little bit, get to the rim. Solid defender. Like he's just a very solid like role player to have on your team, on a playoff team off the bench. You know, so I definitely think a team should pick him up. They said I think the Mavericks maybe might be an option. I could see him in Dallas. Just another wing that can shoot the ball and play defense, which is what they need. Um, yeah, I think most playoff team, there's a lot of playoff teams I can see him with. Maybe a team like the Sixers, maybe another wing that can shoot and defend. Or maybe even like the Kings. Kings aren't a good defensive team. Maybe he can go to the Kings. There's a lot of opportunity I feel like, for Will Barton out there. But yeah, the Wizards bought out Will Barton and they signed Jordan Goodwin to a standard contract. He was on a 2-way this entire year. If you don't know who Jordan Goodwin is, I don't blame you because he plays for the Wizards, and who would watch the Washington Wizards? But Jordan Goodwin has actually been like a very good piece off the bench. Like he became like their backup point guard for Washington. He's played 40 games this year, started 4 of them. He averages 6 points, 30 rebounds, 2 assists, and a steal. He shoots 45% from the field, 38% from three, 75% from the free throw line. He's just a good guard. He can shoot the three, tries a lot on defense, gets some steals. Yeah, just very. He's worked his way into a spot on this team. He played at St. Louis University in college, undrafted player last year. He's playing in the G League. Played 2 games near the end of the year with the Wizards, and then this year came in on a 2-way, and just became this backup point guard with a lot of hustle, and not letting the opportunity get away from him. He played very well, and now he gets awarded with a standard contract. So shout out to Jordan Goodwin, coming from the G, again on the Wizards. Another more news that happened: R.J. Hampton was waived by the Orlando Magic, and after he clears waiver, he's signing with the Detroit Pistons. R.J. Hampton has just not really done much in the NBA. He was a top high school prospect in his class. Instead of going to the NCAA, he went overseas to Australia, where he played a year. The same year that LaMelo Ball did the same thing. He was a 24th overall pick in the draft. Started his year in Denver. He played 25 games, and then at the trade deadline that year was traded in the Aaron Gordon trade, traded to Orlando. He actually showed some promise in Orlando. Like that year, in those 26 games with Orlando, he averaged 11 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists. Tell he still had a lot of work to do, but he hustled, played very well that year. And then last year, he played 64 games. He averaged 7, 3, and 2. Just didn't really look like he proved much. He still had a lot of ways to go. And this year, before the season, the Summer League happened. And in Summer League, when you're usually a second or third year player in the NBA, like usually you're out there and you don't look like you belong. Meaning like you dominate or you just look like better than everyone else. RJ Hampton in Summer League did not do that. RJ Hampton kind of just looked average in the Summer League compared to all these dudes that are never ever going to set foot in the NBA. And he was just kind of out there just not being that good. So I already kind of gave a connotation like, okay, this year's not going to be anything. And this year, Orlando, he's only played in 26 games, averaged 5 points, a rebound, and assist. Things haven't really just worked out for him in Orlando, And it's not the best situation as well because there are a lot of guards in Orlando that need some work, like Markel Fultz, Jalen Suggs, Cole Anthony. Gary Harris plays a lot. Like there's a lot of guards over there in Orlando. So RJ Hampton was kind of just shoved out of the mix because he's the only one that hasn't really shown anything yet. So yeah, not very surprising that he's not on the team anymore. It's just I saw him, he got waived. I was like, dang, they just cut him. But he's going to Detroit now, which I think is going to be a very solid opportunity for him. Detroit is kind of similar where they have a lot of guards, but then again, now all their guards are injured. Like they got Killian Hayes, they got Jane Ivey. Would you consider Hamidou Diallo a guard? No, I think Hamidou Diallo is more of a wing, but he's only like 6'5", so he kind of has to play a guard. Hamidou Diallo is a wing. They got Corey Joseph, but he doesn't really play anymore. Alec Burks is kind of a guard. But RJ Hampton's going to get some more opportunity. I definitely think he's going to get some minutes over there in Detroit. The Pistons are a team that just, I mean, they traded for James Wiseman at the trade deadline. They're just a team that takes on broken pieces and tries to put them back together. You know, they did that with Hamidou Diallo. Hamidou Diallo became like a really solid player in Detroit. Jeremy Grant became that. Has some few moments from some other players that aren't in the NBA anymore, but has some good moments. So maybe, hopefully, RJ Hampton can do that. Because I think RJ Hampton still has some stuff left in the tank. It just hasn't really been able to show it in Orlando. So probably go to Detroit, get some minutes, and we'll see what he can do with it. Um, More news, probably the last news. The Utah Jazz signing two players to 10-day contracts. Chris Dunn and Frank Jackson, both playing in the G League, signed a 10-day contracts. Frank Jackson actually did play with Detroit last year. Frank Jackson, I actually really like Frank Jackson. Like every time I see Frank Jackson play, he actually he's good. Like he actually can shoot and get buckets. You know, this year in the G League, he was averaging 22 points a game. He was in the G League All Star game. He's a former first round pick or second round pick, the first pick of the second round back in 2017 out of Duke. He missed his first season with a foot injury. Came back, played with New Orleans, and was solid. Just didn't really get a lot of opportunity. Then he came to Detroit. His first year in Detroit, he averaged just under 10 points. And then last year, he played 53 games and averaged 10.5 points and a rebound per game. And now he gets to play in Utah on a 10-day. I think he's actually going to probably get some minutes. And yeah, I think the only thing is just his size. You know, he's a 6'3" point guard. He's a bucket getter, but usually that type of mold doesn't really translate very well consistently to the NBA unless you're top tier, you know? Unless you're averaging 25 points a game. But if you're not, then you're just you're not going to be around that long. But Frank Jackson is just, he's a bucket getter. A bucket getter, you know? So glad he got the opportunity. And then Chris Dunn is back in the league. Chris Dunn was the number 5 overall pick back in 2016 out of Providence by the Minnesota Timberwolves. His first year in Minnesota was pretty bad. The number 5 overall pick, he played 78 games in Minnesota. His rookie year, he averaged 3 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, and a steal. Just didn't really do much. Then after his rookie year, he got traded to the Chicago Bulls. He was in the Jimmy Butler trade. Went over to Chicago and looked pretty good in Chicago. His first year in Chicago, he averaged 13 points and 4 rebounds and 6 assists with 2 steals. One of the better two-way guards in the league. He shot 43% from the field. He looked like he kind of unlocked his potential. Next year in Chicago, 46 games, he averaged 11 points, 4 rebounds, 6 assists, 1.5 steals. He shot 42% from the field, 35% from 3. And it looked like he was going to be here to stay. But then 2020 Chicago, he kind of falls down. He averages just 7 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists. Still averages 2 steals per game. But it just doesn't look the same. Next year, 2021, he plays 4 games in Atlanta. And then last year, he played 14 games with Portland and averaged 7 points, 3 rebounds, 5 assists, and a steal. But yeah, he's been playing in the G League with the Capital City Go-Go, which is the Wizards' G League affiliate. And he's been playing pretty good. And it even came out a few days ago that Chris Dunn has been going to be looked at for some 10-day contracts. And now the Jazz are giving him a 10-day. So we'll see what he does. Maybe he can get his career back on track. Yeah, just very tough. Another Connecticut guy, too, which he went to... born in New London, went to New London High School. Shout out to Chris Dunn. Hopefully he can get some minutes, get some opportunity in Utah, and who knows what happened, you know. But yeah, Utah's just gonna be the place where players go to revise their careers, like Detroit. Utah's gonna start doing that now. Just whoever wants a 10-day, come over, try to revive your career over there. Because after making the trades at the trade deadline, trading away Conley, Beasley, Vanderbilt, yeah, you can tell they're just going young. And now they got Chris Dunn, and Frank Jackson. Chris Dunn is 28 years old. That's crazy to me. I did not think Chris Dunn was 28. I thought he was like 26, 25. Dang, that's crazy. 28 years old. Chris Dunn, wow. Well, wasn't he a multi-year college player? He played 4 years at Providence. Yeah, okay, you're never mind. Makes a lot of sense now. I forgot he was a 4-year player at Providence. But yeah, he's back in the league. See what he does. Um, but yeah, that's gonna be it for today's episode. I hope you guys enjoyed. Tomorrow, I'm very excited for tomorrow's episode. Tomorrow, we're doing an episode on my 10 predictions that I have for the second half of the season. Well, second half, loose second half, the after All Star break segment of the season. 10 predictions I have. Very excited for that one. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed, and see you guys tomorrow.